wanted this very pompous, very sort of full of himself author, and that was Jeffrey plays that very well. Even though in person, he's the sweetest, most sort of self-effacing guy.
The whole shtick with the Purell and all the conventions.
Yeah, we
that
saw
happened, that went
Carl
to-
Weathers do that at a signing in London. We saw him shake someone's hand and literally immediately apply.
Like in front of them.
Yeah. There's the Sky Farm trilogy, Fluxing Uranus, Night of the Moths,
Prison Hulk.
451, The Robot's Mistress,
Night of the Moth.
the Jenny Starpepper Mysteries.
Quadrilogy.
There's a lot of trilogies. Sebastian Rico is one of his protagonists.
There's like 140 titles.
We wrote a whole bibliography of Adam Shadowchild, which starts off with his sort of very pretentious science fiction titles and ends up with 1001 bar tricks and how to cope with
Learning
divorce.
to cope with divorce. On the Blu-ray, actually, there's like a 10-minute documentary called Meeting Adam Shadowchild, and it's just all about him. Jelva, Alien Queen of the Varvak. It was just a really bad title, wasn't it?
The idea was that Clive had written a very good first novel when he was 16, and then spent the rest ever since then trying to complete this tome, this impenetrable science fiction sludge that was Jelva, and it takes Paul to help him let that go. Really.
Yeah, you know when you see a woman with 3 breasts riding a blue rhino with a laser whip, you're probably slightly off base.
3 tits. Awesome.
We had a joke in the script originally where people said, "Oh, like in Total Recall," and Clive was like, "No." He didn't like the idea that someone else had the idea.
He's saying I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it. But no, it was just a typical kind of like boy fantasy, absurd boy fantasy sci-fi thing. You know, a green woman with an extra breast, and the whole idea that but 4 would be weird. You know, Graham's like, it's just sick. You know? It's like 4 boobs. Jason Brahil and Jim Murray have been our artists in space. And when I played a comic book artist in space called Tim, and all Tim's comic books were drawn by those guys, and we've just always used them. And so they too did my artwork for Paul.
Whenever we thought about Paul, we always imagined Rip Torn. He was a much older character, and he was a lot angrier as well. I think and that was reflected in his look too. You know, we wanted the very classic grey with the big black eyes and stuff. But I think once you have meetings with Double Negative, who did all the effects and spectral motion, and then we have meetings too about making a character sympathetic, someone like Paul sympathetic, and we just found that he was a bit too angry and he was a bit too alien for potential audiences to warm to him, So as we went on, especially when you cast someone like Seth, he then becomes something completely different, and you have to trust in Seth to bring what he brought to Paul, and I think that that is a great warmth and someone that you kind of want to hang out with, which is a bit like us and Seth. We just kind of want to hang out with him.
We just like alien films.
Yeah.
We didn't want to parody it. I don't think the film is a parody in a way. It's we don't have anything particularly to say about science fiction. It exists in that world. It just happens to be a comedy in the same way that Shaun of the Dead is a zombie film. It just also happens to be a comedy. That doesn't make it a parody of zombie films,
We're big fans of sci-fi, and if you're going to stick to the kind of write what you know adage, this is it.
We know about this shit.
Yeah.